a part of Sunil's workshop. It's pretty much bringing in different sets of people talking about different issues in the area. And I'm from a small island off the state, which is the Bahamas, and we rely heavily on coral reefs when it comes to the ecosystem services. My background is in sustainable tourism, and what I'm pretty much trying to do in my country is connect. I love marine biology, I love tourism, but tourism can be found as kind of a detriment to the environment. I'm trying to bring those two communities together to show that they need each other. Tourism needs the corals because that's why people are coming to the island, and the coral need tourism because if you don't have the money to protect the corals, you can't protect the corals. So they go hand in hand, and that's what I'm trying to do. So my background with coral restoration, I was working in a resort as the environmental coordinator, and we got an opportunity from a science doing coral restoration to open up a coral nursery on our property. So as the environmental officer, my boss being who he is, he put me on the project. And we established a coral nursery, and pretty much what the project is doing throughout the Caribbean is growing staghorn coral, which is an endangered species of coral throughout the Caribbean that we've seen a lot of decline in. And so each property that has a nursery, we grow them. We grow them out as like a Christmas tree, and you just go and you snip a piece off, you go to the reef and you use marine epoxy, and you glue it onto a reef. It sounds simple. It is pretty simple, and it's effortless. So let's go into my presentation. I'll give you a little bit of a preamble. So, reefs are in trouble all around the world. Who's from a small island nation here? Lift your hands higher. Where are you from?
Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka, Dominican Republic. And Sri Lanka, I know you have a booming dive industry. Dominican Republic also. And also a lot of people in both of the areas rely on coral reef for sustainable livelihood, which is a SDG. So, as you can see, we talk very little about coral when it comes to climate change, but it's directly related. Sustainable livelihoods, which can threaten the livelihoods of people, and also additionally, corals are a big carbon sink. They sequester a lot of carbon out of the atmosphere, and if we continue to destroy them, then we keep on emitting emissions, nothing is sucking it out of the atmosphere. So, reefs take up less than 1% of the world's oceans, but 25% of all marine life need corals to survive. I know I love seafood, and the more coral reefs die, the less seafood I can consume, so I try my best to help to protect them. 40% of fish caught commercially use reefs to breed. So you know the fish life cycle, right? They go from mangrove, seagrass bed, past reefs, big coral reefs. So if there's no big home left, then we're in trouble. According to NOAA's report in 2008, that the Caribbean region has lost at least 50% of its coral. In the Caribbean, tourism, and again back to sustainable livelihood, there are a lot of fishing communities throughout the Caribbean islands, and without corals, families don't eat. Also, we don't make our tourism dollars. At least that's why people are coming to our islands. The biggest threat, natural disasters such as hurricanes. And as you know, the warmer it gets, the more intensified hurricanes become. As you can see, most recently we had Hurricane Irma throughout the Caribbean that destroyed Dominica. Last year we had Hurricane Matthew that destroyed some of the islands in the Bahamas, Dominican Republic, Haiti. So again, and the pressure from humans. So here's that fine line between tourism and the fight to help corals survive. The dive industry, which pumps in about $40 million a year into the Caribbean economy, has direct impact on coral reefs if dive operations don't take care of what their divers are doing. So, in retrospect, the industry is destroying its sustainable bottom line by not providing that, not taking care of how they do their operations. So, again, that's where I come in to try educate the businessmen who really don't care about the environment that, hey, if you continue to do this, you're not going to make money, and whenever they hear money, they start to do what we want them to do. Now, another part of the project is diademas. Anybody know what is a diadema? Spiny sea urchin? Anybody know spiny sea urchin? Yeah. If you step on it, it hurts really bad. So diademas are really important when it comes to algae growth bloom on reefs. So what diademas do, they eat algae, and they help to decrease the rate at which algae is growing on a coral reef. If algae bloom happens on coral reefs, they die because it covers the coral reef. And it's just like a plant. It's photosynthesis. If they don't have the sunlight, they can't reproduce, and they don't eat. So this project, what we want to do is combine the replacement of diademas on the coral reefs with new corals from the coral gardens. So there was a decrease in 1984 of diademas throughout the Caribbean. Scientists still don't know why it was a decrease. We had a lot of die-off, and now our reefs are in jeopardy. How do we save them? Coral restoration. So this photo right here shows you a more detail of how diademas clean. I don't know if you see this area here. So this diadema would have taken all the algae from this area and eaten it. And it sounds simple with the diademas, but it's kind of difficult because the success rate is like this. You have to put a diadema in a space where there's not too much algae, because just like your pet dogs, they don't stop eating. And when they continuously eat the algae, they tend to die off. So we're trying to get that right balance between replacing diademas and new coral in the same area to see how that would work with the growth of the staghorn coral that we're growing. So this is a translocation of the diademas. So you just pick them up, you take them in, you keep them for about a week, and then you take them back out when you have your staghorn coral pieces. Okay, let's move on now. Coral nursery. So there's two types of nurseries that hotel properties can do. Now, this is where I come up with hotel properties. I work for the Caribbean Alliance for Sustainable Tourism, and I'm bridging the gap between the scientists, because I understand the language, and the hotels who are part of our conglomerate. So I'm trying to be the bridge between the two entities. And so hotel properties can do one of two nurseries. You have the Christmas tree nursery that we established at the hotel that I used to work at, and you also have the line nurseries. The Christmas tree nurseries, I kind of like them better than the line nurseries. Lines are very fragile during hurricanes, they can break. With the Christmas trees, the tree may move, but they wouldn't break. And we put them out at dive sites. It was a dive resort. We put them out at dive sites, and it actually added an extra attraction for guests whilst they were diving. Additionally, I don't know if you know about PADI, which is the Professional Association of Dive Instructors. They have a course where guests can actually pay to become coral reef nursery certified. So they're making money, we're growing coral. Again, you have the businessmen and the environmentalists working together for a better cause for the coral reef. So these are staghorn corals, and where do we get the pieces from? Coral break all the time. So you go diving, you find a small piece of coral, you take it, you put it on a monofilament line, you tie it, and the coral grows. The only thing you need to do is keep your Christmas tree nurseries clean. Once you keep them clean of algae, you go every week, make sure there are no sea snails or anything around it, and they would grow. So it's pretty simple once your nursery is set up. It's very low cost. It's PVC pipe that we use here. You can find PVC pipe through any hotel property that's in the scrap yard somewhere. And we use a simple block, rope, and a small empty bottle to help it keep erect. So as you can see, low cash injection. The only thing the organization, which is the Bahamas Coral Network, asks for is that when their scientists come in, you allow them to stay for free. That's nothing. Yeah, so moving on here. Now, this is just showing where they get, how they're tying the fragments on, and we label each fragment. So at the resort, what we tried to do to get guests interested in this concept, we would put a tag with their name on the coral. So you plant a coral and you can watch it grow. And the reason we did that at the resort is because it was open for 60 years, and we've had people, they've been coming to the resort for over 30 years. So if I'm able to come back and see my coral over generation, and then the second generation, third generation, see the coral that we planted on a tree, I think that would, again, put money in the resort's pocket and help us with our environmental initiatives of outplanting staghorn coral throughout the Caribbean. Documentation of growth. So this is where the Bahamas Coral Network come in. They're scientists that would come every now and then to your property just to study the growth of the coral so they can put it into their papers they're trying to publish about staghorn coral growth. Because it's a big deal in the Caribbean now. We're seeing huge die-off of these staghorn corals, and they want to understand what's going on, how they're growing, the genetics and stuff like that. Yeah. Outplanting coral. So this is the fun part of it, where you go to the, you're pretty much gardening underwater. You go to the nursery, you clip a piece off, you put them in a bucket, bring them back up, and you scout out a reef that you think would be able to, one, accept this transplant, and make sure that the staghorn would eventually survive during the long term of the transplant. You go to an area, you mix the epoxy while you're on the boat, so it's like playing with clay. Mix the epoxy. Afterwards, you take the epoxy down with you, with the piece of staghorn coral. You clear the algae from around the area of the coral and you just stick it on. It's that simple. And afterwards, staghorn coral, when you plant them, you'll see that if they are in the right condition at the right time and they're getting the nutrients that they need, they'll flourish. Yep. Moving on here, and there you go. So the project had two types. We had staghorn, and we also had, oh gosh, why did I forget this one? I'm going to remember the name of that one, so don't worry. So there's two types of coral they were growing, but the staghorn were more in jeopardy, and also we found that growing the staghorn in nurseries were better than the other alternative. So the project is sticking solely with staghorn corals now. They also do coral, not outplanting, but nurseries throughout Indonesia and the Pacific, but that's more for the aquarium trade, the colorful corals for the aquariums. These here are mainly for outplanting throughout the Caribbean to make sure that our corals, the population starts to increase instead of decline. Okay. Now, so the thing about coral reefs is that a lot of people don't realize that they're actually live animals. And so the coral is actually, it's called a zoontele. They live inside the coral. And what's happening right now, because of warming sea levels, corals are very susceptible to change. They do not like change at all. So if the temperature of the area goes up, say, a 0.1, that coral is going to respond to that. And what it's going to do, it's going to expel the zoontele outside of the coral. And when the zoontele, which is that small colorful thing inside each one of these pods, have the zoontele. And when it expels the zoontele, it can't do photosynthesis. So therefore the coral starves. And that's when you see coral start to become white, coral bleaching. It's because it expels under stress, it expels the zoontele, it can't produce food, and it eventually dies. When it becomes white, it has no protection and nothing, so the algae starts to grow over it. Therefore, sunlight is blocked, the coral's dead. And tying it back down to, this is the current work here in the Bahamas. So the Exuma Land and Sea Park is the oldest land and sea park in the region, founded in 1974, and they're doing a lot of work there. We, not to toot our horns in the Bahamas, but we have some of the last sustainable stocks of conch fisheries, grouper fisheries, and we can attribute it to this park here because of the spillover from the park. So we're doing a lot of the work in this park to make sure that the coral in the park is protected, so we can ensure that we have a sustainable stock of fisheries which are both economically important and important for the biodiversity of the ocean. So this is some of the coral outplanting here in Exuma, the staghorn, and the one I forgot the name, I'll get the name for you. Moving along here. So, as we talked about coral.
How about heterogeneity? So if you just grow one type of coral, isn't it a problem?
Nah, so the staghorn coral, the reason that the project has to focus on that, it's because of the decline in it. And there has been the guy.
Especially in that type of
was that?
coral. Especially in that type.
In that type of coral, yeah. There's been a decline in that type. But the guy who's leading the research, Craig Dalgray, he has actually tried to do a hybrid, so in the lab, a coral to see if he produce another strain, if it would be, stronger. So that research is actually going on now. It's pretty cool to like look at coral like propagation. Like, you know, it's not like when you do animal reproduction, like the corals are like, you know, you play like good music to let them get their mojo. Just joking. But it's all done in a controlled lab and under ultraviolet light. Corals need a certain amount of light at a certain time. And in August of every year, if you go to the coral nurseries, you can actually watch them reproduce. So you go at night and you see them, they expel the sperm, and it just like pretty much goes and it lands on whatever coral and they reproduce like that. So it's a pretty cool thing to see. So that kind of work is being done, but they've not perfected it as yet. Okay, moving along here. So, challenge with coral diseases. We also have coral diseases. And we've seen in the Bahamas, like I dive pretty much most every weekend I dive. And I've been diving in the area, I've been diving from 2014, and you can see the change from between the coral bleaching, between the coral diseases, and all of these are attributed to the impact of what's happening in our environment. Warming sea levels, ocean acidification, corals getting choked out, and also human activities. People dropping anchors in the marine parks and scratching corals, diving, the diving industry. So we've seen the decline in the space of 3 years where I've been diving. I've seen the decline in coral in the area. So that's why I'm pushing this project, especially with the member hotels of the Caribbean Alliance for Sustainable Tourism, showing them that, you know, you can do this simple, low-cost project to help a $1 billion industry. So, yeah, and also we have carnivores. You have sea snails, and you have sea snails and sea slugs that actually eat coral. And why the numbers are increasing is because the more dead coral you have, the more sea snails are present, and the coral can't fight it off itself. So it's cause and effect. Moving along, urchins. Yeah. So back to the urchins. The urchins can't do it alone. So we use sea urchins, bring the corals together, one project to help save our coral reefs. So this is another thing that we do too, citizen science with the divers, and also with high school students and the next generation of those guys. So in our mindset, sustainability, we're going to push this generation, but we have to instill it in the future generations, the small kids. So when they grow up, when they become our age, making decisions would be second guess. They're just gonna, it's what's right, you know. So we do a lot of community outreach within the high schools. Also with tourists who come to our islands. You know, they're coming here and they want to, the new trend in tourism is like education. They want to learn about our islands. They want to learn how they can protect our islands so they can come there for the rest of their life, you know. If I was a tourist, I would want to go to the Bahamas for the rest of my life too. So education is a big thing in this project. And now I'm going to go into why should we do this for the Caribbean especially. Again, the ecosystem services for tourism for the islands is of high importance. In tourism, the coral reefs help to contribute about $10 million in tourism, $8 million in sustainable livelihood. And also, when you look at acting as a natural buffer to storm surges, a lot of the islands throughout the Caribbean and the Bahamas, if it were not for coral reefs, all of our coastal infrastructure probably would have been gone. About 71% of all coastal infrastructure throughout the Caribbean, of infrastructure is located on the coast in the Caribbean. For the main reason that when the settlers first came, the coast was where they settled. So all the roads, all the buildings, most homes are on the coast. So if we don't protect coral reefs and mangroves, saltwater inundation into our freshwater lands, we have damage and $1 million of damage. In the Caribbean right now we can see it. Puerto Rico, the Bahamas. Our coasts have been destroyed from hurricanes in the last 2 years. And we need stuff like coral reefs to be in order to protect our island. So this project, even though some people may see it as a small project, it's at least something small to help prevent a bigger problem in the future. So this is a joint collaboration between the Caribbean Alliance for Sustainable Tourism, the Bahamas Coral Network, hopefully we can call it the Caribbean Coral Network next time I see you guys, to help save our reefs from being destroyed.